everyone, I'm Frank Malakote. I work for KTVU Fox 2 here in the San Francisco Bay Area. My guest is an environmentalist. He's a journalist and a producer of documentaries. The latest aiming at California's watershed and our climate crisis. Let's say hi to Jim Thebaut. Jim, good to have you with us.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Well, we've had quite a fire season. I know you're a California guy. 4 million acres burned. 8,200 plus fires in California, and it really comes down to our watershed, managing that. Tell us why. Why is water so important when it comes to fire?
Well, I mean, we're not, it's a crisis at this point. We have to protect our headwaters of our watershed. California is the fifth largest economy in the world, and part of the reason, or a major part of the reason, is the water situation, and we're so interconnected. And California's watershed, the Sierra Nevada mountains, provides water for the San Francisco Bay Area, supplies water for agriculture, creates food security, not only for California but the nation and part of the world. And it provides 1/3 of the water supply to Southern California. So it's really crucial, and that we protect that watershed. But unfortunately, over the years, because of policies that have been created years past, fire suppression policies, we kind of ignored the ecological system, and that's a good reason, a major reason why all this is. We have this major demise of the whole system.
And there's a reason for fire. It's been around forever. And I think we forget that. I mean, Native Americans did not have a fire department per se. And hundreds and thousands of years before that, fires came and went, and the world survived. What are we doing wrong?
Well, as I mentioned, actually goes all the way back to the gold rush era. The people who lived up there and worked up there did not want fires, and so every fire that broke out, which was many of them were natural because of the system, was put out. And as a result, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of dead trees. I'm not exaggerating. And all the fuel related to all these dead trees, and people don't take them out. And we need to go in, and actually, as I've been advocating and being a landscape architect, we need to redesign the forest, and we need to rebuild our infrastructure. And that's, as we know, it's a complicated system which was put together. The water system was put together by former Governor Pat Brown in the late 50s, early 60s, and it's very fragile. And so the whole system depends on the watershed and our infrastructure.
And there are some counties, I believe Yuba counties began thinning some of their forests. So what do we need to do to make that happen? And why hasn't it happened? Because these fuels have come down, like you said, dead trees and all the brush and whatnot that grows up and under these trees. And we're seeing it, all over California, Australia. What do we need to do to get in and have that happen?
Well, unfortunately, it's been politicized, and the federal government controls a lot of the land up in the watershed. Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, others have controlled a lot of the land up there. And there needs to be a greater interaction between the federal government, the state, and local agencies to start implementing solutions. And this is way overdue. Well, we have a tendency in our society to kick the can down the road and not stay on top of these issues. And it's like allowing your house to be neglected for years, and then suddenly you wonder why you're having problems. It's basically our house. We have to take care of it, and we haven't. And then we play the blame game all the time, and it's been highly politicized. And now we need to implement a nonpartisan, bipartisan effort to start fixing the forest, and that is spending billions of dollars. It's going to require serious money. And my feeling is it's a national security issue, and you could argue it's an international security issue, because California's agriculture depends on the water situation. And as population grows and up to 10 billion people, which is projected by 2050, the world is going to depend on California agriculture because climate conditions. California has Mediterranean climate, which is, there are only 5 regions in the world that have the same climate. And they are the prime agriculture food baskets for the world. So therefore, it becomes a national and / international security issue. And I believe that to the degree that we need to start using defense spending money to be able to fix the forest, and not to do it yesterday.
This might be off the beaten trail a little bit, but Mount Diablo, I'm sure you're familiar with here in the Bay Area, being a Berkeley guy years ago. They had a pretty good sized fire there, 2012, 2013, on the eastern slope of it over towards, say, Byron, Antioch over on that side. And, they got it under control, but I don't know how many hundreds of acres burned. But a year later, the flora and fauna that popped up out of the ground, some environmentalists say they had not seen flowers and that kind of plant life there in over 100 years. So Mother Nature needs fire sometimes to regenerate. Is that true?
That's very much part of the ecological system.
Well, that kind of blew my mind because we're so used to putting them out. Sometimes Mother Nature knew something long ago that it took us a while to kind of figure out. Talk about the Chronicle Group, and a group that you founded, an environmental group that is trying to educate policymakers, why you found it, and what you folks are doing now.
Well, I was actually had a partner when I initially started the Chronicles Group. The first project was a documentary feature called The Cold War and Beyond, about the history of events and decisions that escalated the arms race during the Cold War. And the mission of the Chronicles Group is educate the people of the planet about the important issues that are confronting the 21st century. And that's basically what we're all about. And I've produced a series of documentaries and even videos, shorter videos about the issues. And the very first film that I did on water, I connected with former United States Senator Paul Simon, who had written a book called Tapped Out about the international security aspects of related to water. And I produced a film called Running Dry based on his book, and traveled all over the world and did some filming and interviewed a lot of world leaders, Mikhail Gorbachev and Shimon Peres. And that the first screening of that film was at the Russell Senate building on Capitol Hill. And I'm proud to say it resulted in a U.S. foreign policy legislation entitled the Paul Simon Water for the Poor Act. So my objective is to have public policy and to educate leaders and politicians and other professionals about these major issues. And my recent film, California Watershed, has had 59 broadcasts on PBS stations across the state. So that's a lot of people being aware, being educated regarding the issues. So it's a mission that I have about doing these kinds of things. And I think we have so many issues that are confronting this planet right now in this 21st century that we need to get it together and start implementing solutions. And so that's what I try to do. That's what I'm trying to do now, actually.
Right. And are those in the know, are they listening?
I'm sorry?
Are those in the know, are politicians and policymakers, are they listening? I mean, what more do they need? They look at California, 4 million acres burned this year. It's the size of Connecticut, over 8,000 fires. I grew up as a kid here, and you grew up here too. I don't recall this back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Fire season was like the rain season now. I just don't remember it.
Well, I think in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, there was more bipartisan efforts I think Pat Brown, when he put together the California, just give me an example, put together the water system, he worked with Presidents Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, and worked with the federal government to implement this thing. They all kind of saw it as California had great value to the country, and they worked together to make this happen. I don't think we're clearly not really nonpartisan. We're not bipartisan now. There's we're we're basically beating each other up, and that's a tragedy that has to end, because we're really, it doesn't make any difference to a Republican or a Democrat. We're all living here, and we all have to learn how to work together. And right now, it's with population on the growth happening. It was when the California Watershed project was first implemented, there were only 12 million people in the state of California, and it was designed for 20 million people. We're now going on to from 40 to 50 million people. It's like trying to put a square peg into a round hole. I mean, it's kind of, we really need to start rethinking what we're doing, and it's going to require bipartisan effort to do this.
What do you expect in the coming years? I mean, hopefully people are listening and we're heading that direction, but the extreme fire seasons that we've especially had here in California, are they here to stay? I mean, will next year be just as worse, or what do you think?
Well, I mean, again, we talked before, we got started here. I mean, I really believe that what we need to do is to redesign the forest, clear out these dead trees and the fuel that ignites these fires, start creating buffers. I mean, like what's happening in terms of, I was filming just up in the mountains, just outside of Fresno a couple of months ago. All of it's gone now. Everything I filmed up there. And there were houses, summer cabins in the forest. They're all burnt out. So we need to create buffers. We need to be smart where we build. I mean, I'm a regional environmental planner by profession, actually, before I got into this crazy business of creating films. And we need to design, we need to plan. Most of our planning is kind of piecemeal, and we don't think much about it. We don't think regionally. We don't think in terms of design. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We are getting too big. Global population is growing. We're at 8 billion people on the planet. And we never had 8 billion people. We never had to think about feeding 8 billion people on the planet. And now we've reached that point. And we're not alone. I mean, the rest of the world has serious problems. And I've traveled and I've seen the degradation across the world. And that's a recipe for disaster. And this has been shared by the Bulletin for Atomic Sciences, who just recently set the doomsday clock to 100 seconds to midnight. And the US intelligence community, they put together a series of global trend studies. The recent global trend study for 2035 indicates that we're going to have global conflict out there, population growth, drying temperatures, climate crises is real, and we have to pay attention to these realities.
And if you throw COVID-19, is there a correlation between all of that and the pandemic we're going through now?
I think so. I mean, because I think we've gone to a point where we're compromising the integrity of the global ecological system. We don't pay attention to the ecological system, and we compromise and we alter it constantly, and it's almost beyond repair. I mean, we need to get out and start fixing what we've just created. I mean, I just don't. I mean, as I say, we're almost reached a point of no return if we don't get it together.
Well, perhaps watching Beyond the Brink, California Watershed would help. Some of the people out there that are watching this, how do people get in touch with you, Jim? And if they'd like to watch your documentary, how do they do that?
Well, you can go into my website, which is www.chroniclesgroup.org, or you can call me, actually. I take calls, 310-283-8340. I'm in Los Angeles, and I'll try to get back to you if I miss your call. But the fact is, we need to start working together. And that is really, it's really important. And I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, it is a people issue. And we need to start paying attention, we got to stop fighting against each other, and we have to start working together. It's really important.
Well,
Never been so important.
I was going to say it's our planet. We all live here. I mean, there's nothing partisan about that. So
Absolutely.
we got to figure it out. Jim Thebaut, hey, really great to meet you. And thank you for your insights on our environment. And hopefully we can start trucking the right way.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
All right. That's Jim Thebaut. I'm Frank Malicote here at KTVU Fox 2. If you'd like more information, you can go to newsnowfox.com. Have a great day, everybody.